If you've come here today looking for a sweet, wholesome, heartwarming movie, then you've absolutely, unequivocally come to the right place. You've found the right place. Because today's movie is so sweet that by the end of this video, it's gonna rot all your teeth. Then again, the only tooth damage you're probably gonna get from this video is gonna be from all the stomach acid you get from every time you puke in your mouth. And this movie has a lot of pukeable moments. A lot. But hey, I'm just gonna let you see for yourself. And on brand with today's video, we got babies everywhere, including Clyde back there. Ew, his sunglasses are off. Some a little more haunted than others. So without further ado, grab onto your haunted doll, and let's begin. Our main girl, Anne Gentry, is a social worker who, per her own request, gets assigned to a new case. The case of a full-grown man who apparently and supposedly has the mental capacity of an infant, despite looking to be in his, late 20s-ish. Fresh on the case, Anne goes to pay the family, the Wadsworths, a visit, or a type of consultation since they're her new clients, or specifically one of them is. So Anne and Mrs. Wadsworth sit down for a bit of a chat, a kind of icebreaker get-to-know-you kind of chat, where Anne learns that Miss Wadsworth's I gotta say it the whole time. Where Anne learns that Miss Wadsworth's son, the adult baby in question, is actually called Baby, and he just goes solely by Baby. And we also learn that Baby has two adult sisters who live in the home with them, Germaine and Alba. And all three kids are from three different dads. And despite Baby currently being down for a nap, because, adult baby things, Anne insists on seeing him, a little taken aback to see a full-grown man in baby clothes and a diaper in a full-size man-size crib. Also shirt check. Ugh. And during the course of the following visits, Anne is able to observe Baby and interact with him, witnessing firsthand how closely he acts, lives, and is treated like an actual baby. A full-grown man who makes coos and baby noises instead of speech, can only crawl instead of walking, uses a bottle, wears and uses a diaper, and gets fed baby food from a baby man high chair. Among other things. The full 9 yards. And needless to say, Anne is intrigued, and starts dedicating a lot or most of her social worker hours, focused solely on Baby's case and spending her time visiting him over visiting her other clients, which is something her boss takes notice of, and though he rebukes her for neglecting her other cases, Anne backs up her decision and her dedication to Baby by stating that this is an important case of what she perceives to be criminal negligence, and suggesting that there's something really shady and insidious going on with Baby and his situation, going further to bring up the solid and valid point that the only other social worker who worked this case as deeply and dedicatedly ended up disappearing altogether. So Anne continues her close observation of this case and of Baby, consistently spending lots of time at the Wadsworth residence and interacting with Baby a lot, making passing comments to the other family members of how intelligent and alert Baby seems to be, and even initiating a game of ball toss with Baby, under the scrutinizing watch of Germaine and Alba, who don't really love Anne being there, and sticking her nose this far into their business. And even though Baby is able and cognizant enough to pass the ball back and forth, Germaine and Alba go out of their way to assure Anne that his capabilities pretty much end there, right as Alba insists on taking Baby back into the house for his nap, a decision that Baby is not too happy about. Germaine then accompanies or ushers Anne to her car, where we learn that Anne's seemingly past tense husband was an architect named Roger. Germaine very persistent on keeping the conversation focused on Anne rather than Baby, which is where Anne wants the conversation to go. And I need to just put it out there into the universe that Germaine has the scariest stare. No offense, Germaine. Anne continues on to say that she lives in a nice house with her husband and her mother-in-law, Judith, as Germaine continues to listen with that unhinged stare. But Anne is quick enough to steer the conversation back to Baby, discovering the last time that Baby had any psychological tests was when he was an actual baby, like an infant. So that further piques Anne's interest/suspicions. And later on, when Anne is back at home at her house with her mother-in-law, she's flipping through a hella antiquated slideshow of pictures of Roger, getting emotional and lamenting to her mother-in-law why it had to happen, before being comforted by said mother-in-law. So there was obviously some sort of tragedy pertaining to old Roger over there. One that the movie is just dangling in front of our faces without actually telling us. But I have a feeling we'll find out more about that later. By the way, I have my supernatural protective salt with me because this movie is chock full of demon energy, and demon energy of the human kind. Like, there ain't nothing supernatural about this movie, but it's still just as evil. Meanwhile, back at the Wadsworth homestead, Baby is being babysat by a babysitter, who upon Baby's crying and pouty insistence, lets him out of his man crib, and as soon as Baby is free, he makes a beeline for the door. But after Baby is back under control and calmed down a little bit, him and the babysitter end up playing, which ends up with Baby trying to nurse off of the babysitter. And worse yet, she obliges and lets him. And worser yet, she starts liking it. Ew. When this scene started unfolding in this direction, I was a little taken aback, to say the least. I'm like, what the hell? Anyway, right then is when the Wadsworths return home, discovering the debauchery going on in Baby's nursery, resulting in Miss Wadsworth slapping the babysitter silly and pretty much beating her around the room. Deserved. Before Jermaine and Alba escort the disgraced babysitter the hell out of their house. The next day, Anne pays the Wadsworth a surprise visit of sorts. Baby outside in a playpen, being supervised by Alba, who is not the happiest to see Anne. But soon enough, the phone rings from inside the house, Alba begrudgingly going to answer, leaving Anne alone with Baby. So while Anne is alone with Baby, she decides to put her suspicions to the test a little bit, coaxing Baby up to his feet as far as he'll go to see if he actually has the ability to stand on his own. But that's right when Mrs. Wadsworth arrives home. Pissed off that Anne is not only there, but is trying to force Baby to stand and is interfering. Anne suggests to Mrs. Wadsworth that Baby actually seems like he has the potential for growth, so that Miss Wadsworth should consider putting him in a special type of school, where Baby could be around other kids with mental disabilities, and Anne thinks he could, flourish in that type of situation. Miss Wadsworth is not too open to the idea and insists that Baby stays solely under her care, and Miss Wadsworth says to Anne, well, maybe if you could show me that he has any potential for growth or adult abilities, then maybe I'd think twice about it. So Anne tries to get Baby to play ball again like he was doing yesterday, where they tossed it back and forth. But this time, Baby doesn't cooperate or can't cooperate, and he doesn't toss the ball back. He doesn't engage. So Miss Wadsworth is over there all smug because she was proven right. Although Baby was capable of playing ball yesterday when Miss Wadsworth wasn't there. So Anne's a bit defeated, but before she leaves, Miss Wadsworth tells her that she'll at least think about that special school. She'll think about it. Which is good news to Anne. She'll take any even iota of cooperation at that point. And right after Anne leaves, Alba goes around jabbing Baby with an actual cattle prod as punishment for not acting babyish enough and for letting Anne help him pretty much stand. Before Jermaine steps in and puts the abuse to a stop, Miss Wadsworth coming in to thereafter zap Alba in turn, which is more than deserved, before Miss Wadsworth tells her daughters to go put Baby in the closet. So I guess there's a punishment closet as well. So poor Baby's going through it. He's going through it. And if Baby weren't going through it enough, later that night, while he's asleep in his crib, Jermaine sneaks into his nursery, into his crib, to pay him a visit. Visit. Which is all shades of wrong, because, in general, of course, but he's also her half-brother. So it's just back-to-back-to-back abuse for poor Baby over here. That scene needs Jesus. Jesus. The next day, Anne goes back to her office to talk to her boss about her mounting suspicions, because they are mounting by the minute. Her suspicions being that Baby's actually a normal, full-grown, capable man that's just been manipulated by a whole lifetime of negative reinforcement and consistent punishment to keep him trapped or coerced into maintaining a baby-like state or baby-like mentality. And her boss is a little wary or unsure of such a massive claim, but Anne is determined to prove it. So Anne sets up an appointment between herself, her boss, and Miss Wadsworth, but Miss Wadsworth ends up standing them up. And when Anne calls their house to be like, where the hell are you? Jermaine answers to say, yeah, we're not coming in. Mama's not coming in. Asking Anne if she's heard from her supervisor yet. Anne doesn't know what she's talking about, so after ending the call with Germaine, Anne calls up her supervisor, Mr. Foley, coming to find out that some serious complaint or accusation has been levied against Anne. I wonder by who. So Anne, who is therefore understandably pissed, goes back over to the Wadsworth house to pay them a little visit, confronting Miss Wadsworth and her daughters, threatening to involve the public guardian office to investigate all this possible mistreatment, and threatening that thereafter it's only a matter of time before they take baby away from them, and telling them that she intends to get full guardianship of baby. And Miss Wadsworth is not too happy to hear that. And when Anne returns home, her mother-in-law Judith tells her Miss Wadsworth called already, insisting that Anne call her back because she has something important to talk to her about. So Anne gives Miss Wadsworth a little ring. Miss Wadsworth saying she wants to apologize for her earlier behavior and their whole confrontation that took place on their porch. Telling Anne that she and her daughters are willing to cooperate with Anne again, pretty much anything to keep the public guardian office away. And when Anne suggests them both meeting in person to talk about it further, Mrs. Wadsworth insists that it be tomorrow, the next day, at baby's birthday party. Don't you love it when your baby turns 30? So sweet. And though Anne is initially hesitant that, such an important situation should take place in a more formal setting, she eventually agrees. So at baby's birthday party the next day, there's definitely a lot more party than talk going on as far as Anne is concerned. Anne ending up getting stuck in a game of darts as opposed to getting stuck into the conversation she came to have. Baby just haphazardly crawling around the floor everywhere, unsupervised. However, it seems that the Wadsworths never had the intention for this conversation to take place. They had other plans. Exhibited by Germaine, who looks like she licked a power outlet, sneaking over to subtly drug or spike Anne's drink, while Anne's over there caught up in an enthralling game of darts. So it's only a matter of time before Anne starts feeling woozy. So the Wadsworths hurry over and escort silly drunk little Anne over here, whoops, to a bedroom to get some rest and to sober up, because, she's just drunk, she's not drugged. Of course not. And while everyone is distracted by the party shenanigans and not paying attention, Germaine and Alba sneak the woozy and stumbling Anne into the garage. Alba's lecherous, creepy boyfriend, Dennis, taking notice. Baby as well. Once in the garage, they hurriedly tie Anne up and put a gag in her mouth, Alba leaving to distract Dennis, the other two subtly coming out of the garage shortly thereafter. Like, did anyone see? So maybe they plan on killing Anne after the party? Now that's what you call an after party. So now Anne is completely alone in the garage and gagged and tied up. But Baby, who has been pretty much wholly unsupervised the entire party, he sneaks or crawls into the garage to check it out, managing to remove the gag from Anne's mouth, but his help pretty much ends just right there. At least Anne has company now. But Anne don't need no damn help. Managing to free herself with a handsaw they have in the garage, sneaking herself and Baby out of the house and to her car. And as the party is coming to a close, the Wadsworths go into the garage, realizing it to be empty now, rushing outside just as Anne and Baby take off and drive away. So they quickly rush to get in their own car, but Anne over here, who thinks of everything, she's already slashed their tire. As you do. Genius. So Anne and Baby get away and speed off into the night. The day after, as the Wadsworths are anxiously awaiting any phone call or news from Anne, or maybe even the police, Anne is at her home getting Baby all dressed up, all glammed up in a suit. An actual man's suit, not a baby suit, if that's a thing. Posing him so that he's standing up against a chair, where she snaps a photo and sends it to the Wadsworths to prove that Baby is so quickly excelling in Anne's pursuit and persistence in making him a full-grown man and to act like one. And in the note that Anne sends along with the photo, she tells the Wadsworths that even if they do get Baby back, he'll be forever changed. It's progress that's going to be irreversible to them despite their best attempts. And that Baby is gone forever. There ain't no going back. Ain't no going back into babyhood. Which makes the Wadsworths, especially Miss Wadsworth, livid. And I don't fully understand why. Like, I don't fully get their motivation to even make Baby into a adult man baby and to keep him that way. Anne's theory is that since Baby's biological father left Miss Wadsworth has a thing against men and hates men and is taking it out on Baby, but even then that doesn't seem strong enough of a motive, but needless to say, the Wadsworths are very unhappy, and they manage to pretty quickly track down Anne's house, heading over at nighttime to sneak into the house to retrieve Baby, embarking on a full-fledged Mission Impossible escapade. But Anne and Judith already anticipate their arrival, and as the Wadsworths sneak into their house, probably assuming Anne and her mother-in-law are asleep, the very much awake Anne and her mother-in-law start taking down the Wadsworths one by one, killing off the daughters until the mother is the last one alive. So Anne and Miss Wadsworth get into a fight to the death, the final boss battle, and when Anne and Judith eventually corner Mrs. Wadsworth on the stairwell, Miss Wadsworth jumps over the railing and to the ground and breaks her leg. And before Judith is able to administer the last final death blow, Anne stops her and insists on keeping her alive, where instead they both opt to tie her up and then drag her outside. Judith and Anne end up dumping Miss Wadsworth in a giant pit that's been dug for the pool they're having built in their backyard. The living Miss Wadsworth ending up right next to the dead bodies of her daughters, who have already been dumped in said pit. And then, shovelful by shovelful, Anne and Judith start burying Miss Wadsworth alive, right next to the bodies of her daughters, so kind of the ending they all deserve, let's be real. And the next day, after the harrowing events of only last night, Anne brings Baby into a fully decked out nursery room in her own house, which turns out to be the nursery belonging to her husband Roger, who now, because of that unspoken accident that Anne alluded to earlier, lives in a mental state similar to that of Baby's mental state. So now she has 2 adult babies. And has brought her husband / baby Roger a new friend, a new playmate. And Anne absolutely loves having 2 of them, gushing over them and mothering them. And the movie ends with the now complete happy family yay, having a fun time in the now completed swimming pool in their backyard. The same pool that has all the Wadsworth bodies buried underneath the baby's feet. And thus it ends. Thank goodness. And I don't know how to feel about this movie besides grossed out and a little confused, yeah. And I can't decide if I should take this movie seriously. Like, is it a deep, dark, thought-provoking think piece? Or is it just laughable, weird, debauched nonsense? I don't know. And I was so certain, like I felt like Sherlock Holmes over here, I was so certain that Baby had been completely faking and it was some farce or facade for government welfare because the Wadsworths, they live off government welfare because of Baby. I thought for sure it was something like that or something sinister, like he's creepy and weird and he likes it so he lives like that, I don't know. I thought he was faking. That's not the ending they chose to give us, apparently. So I guess Baby had genuinely been coerced into being an adult baby and maintaining his babiness through constant and pervasive negative reinforcement. You know what, maybe that can break a person to this extent, I don't know. And I don't know if I want to know because I already have my own babies to deal with, except these are haunted. These have evil spirits with them. So I don't know if I, recommend this movie, but you know what, maybe just give it a watch yourselves and see what you think, and maybe your takeaway will be completely different to mine. But let your takeaway from this video be, go and get those cavities checked, babe.